Good evening, welcome to the live edition of Last Bowl Boxing, joined by regulars Harrison. Good evening, Harrison.
Evening, Carl. Good to see you.
Joined by Daz. How you going, Daz? Daz, that is.
All right, mate.
And then Mr. Ashton. How you going, Darren?
Good evening, Carl. Nice to speak to you again.
All good, all good. So we're going to jump straight into it, guys, okay? I'm getting a little bit of feedback somewhere. I don't know what it's off, but we'll persevere. So we'll start with Nick Ball. So me and Harrison was at the weigh-in on Saturday, Friday even. Harrison, I'm going to come to you first. Is it as was expected? Do you think he fights Inoue? Give us a breakdown.
Yeah, sorry, just struggling to hear that. Yeah, it was a big fight on Saturday in Liverpool, and it was big for the city of Liverpool as well. Spoke about it plenty in the build-up, how there's a real lack of the world title scene in the UK, getting around the UK as well. So it was a big night, and in the end, it delivered very well. There seemed to be very good sales on the day and the week, and it turned into a very good event in the end. Plenty of the undercard went as you'd expect. Then Nick Ball obviously took to the stage at 10 o'clock, which is about the earliest you'll ever see a Queensberry main event. I couldn't believe how early it was for such a big card. But it was very to the scales, I think. Everyone expected Nick Ball to go out and impress, big homecoming for him, and that's exactly what he did. He looked absolutely fantastic from minute one, that aggressive style that we've become used to, those explosive punches. You wouldn't think, looking at him, 5'2" featherweight, that someone of that posture and that stance can carry that amount of power, but goodness me, he does. Ronnie Rios was down 2-3 times in the end. Such a game little opponent for him. Like he really did come to give it a good go, and it's nice to see that with foreign fighters sometimes. It just came up short. I don't think he's at that level anymore personally, and in the end, Nick Ball progressed in the fight really well. Could have got the stoppage when he wanted to, really, but around 10 was when you're glad to see that towel got thrown in. And yeah, Nick Ball's on to very, very big things now in the featherweight division. Should probably unify next.
Cheers, Harrison. Thank you very much. Coming on to Mr. Ashton, give us your thoughts, guys. Okay, maybe not then. So let's move on to Darren Medcalf. Daz, I understand you gave it the prediction last week. You got it right, like you like to remind us every time once in a blue moon you get it right.
I get it right most times, don't I?
Well, I'm not sure about that, young man, but that's what you like to tell us. So give us your thoughts. And obviously, you're a big fan of Inoue. You know, you wear.
Oh, mate, don't go there. Don't go there. Stop it. Don't even go there.
That's the noise you're making, though, doesn't it?
No, well, listen. If you want Nick Ball to get absolutely smashed to bits and lose his title in his next fight, put him in with Inoue then.
Don't you give him a cat and mouse chance then?
No, mate. No, not all. Do you? No. I mean, listen. He's got a chance in the sense that he's got an heartbeat and he's got two hands. But nah, mate. Come on. Inoue's. Listen, he'll just get. You can't. How can you walk into Inoue? It just gets smashed to bits, mate. Listen, Nick Ball, very good fighter in his own right. But listen, we're talking elite, future great. You know, no, leave him well alone. I would personally.
Just to mention for Rios, though, Daz, what a tough fella, right, to hang in there for as long as he did.
Yeah, he's tough guy and. Credit to him, but like Harrison said, Ball would, I think we all said he just got too much for him, so it weren't no surprise really, tough kid, but end of his career now, I think.
And what on Nick Ball? So if it's not Inoue next, where do you take him for the WBC? I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean. Why not? Why not look to unify? Listen, if he unifies, right, he gets some time. Yeah, listen, unifies, and then if a new way does come up, then yeah, listen, he gets paid very well for probably going to Japan, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, good luck to him. And do you know what? Another few fights ain't going to harm his case against Inoue either, is it?
No.
You know what I mean? So you know, as much as what I write him off. I mean, you listen, you can never write anyone off 100%, but it's a big task. But the more experience he gathers, the better for him.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to this weekend's card. Just quite a few fights to get through, and I've included this one purposely. So I'm going to call him Mo. So obviously Joe Gallagher's out in Saudi doing a lot of work at the Mike Tyson gym, bringing some Saudi fighters over to Manchester to train with him. I'd be really interested to take both your views on this regarding Joe Gallagher's making noises that over the next 2-3 years he starts to expect to see some Saudi fighters coming through the ranks. So, Harrison, I don't expect to be an expert on these two fighters, but do you think this is a start of green shoots coming through regarding Saudi fighters?
Well, I mean, they're making the right noise and they're going in the right direction. I mean, it feels like there's an ultimate process. I remember quite a few months ago on this podcast saying the next progressive step for these Saudi shows and this involvement to continue is they're going to have to eventually make their own fighters. The high standard and quality we've seen with the cards is good, but there has to be the sort of mid-balance there as well of next generation shows or main events which involve Saudi fighters which can then endorse the crowd, because ultimately I think obviously it's great that they're going to get to see the Furies, the Usyks, the Joshuas of the world go out there and build up their own events, but they need to be able to springboard their own national statistics to get themselves the fighters of that caliber. Joe Gallagher, I mean, I'm sure everyone's got his opinion. He is an incredibly outspoken person, especially for a trainer, really. He says some good things, he says some dastardly things as well at times, but he's right, and using UK-based gyms, UK-based trainers to get these Saudi fighters elevated to the next level is probably where they need to go. Obviously, we have a debutant on this card on Saturday night. I mean, where else to make your debut than on Riyadh for the light heavyweight championship of the world? I mean, they've got the stages, they've got the promotion. It's just a case of, are they good enough? And we'll see that now on Saturday and, over time, really.
Darren Medcalf, coming to you from a coach's perspective. It's a long road, right, to start establishing boxing in a new country when it's not historically had a history. So is Joe Gallagher a bit ambitious talking about 2 or 3 years, or do you think it's doable?
You've got to be ambitious. That's how you achieve things. You know, it might take a little bit longer than that to get established, because you got, if they're going to have their own shows, then you got to have a bit of strength in depth. Obviously, you can't. You're not going to have fighters from over here going there all the time. If you're going to have like shows in between these big shows that we're seeing. So listen, it can happen. I mean, nobody ever thought, that people would have champions from like Mongolia, and then you had like Choi Zvimplev, who, were a good fighter. It can happen. If you can fight, you can fight. It don't matter where you're from. But they need to get the gyms busy over there. And then listen, it can happen. It can happen.
Cheers, that's coming on to Mr. Ashton. So the question was, Dan, in case you didn't catch it, I don't expect you to know much about the two fighters. However, Joe Gallagher's gone on record as saying that Mo's the first of many on what could be a Saudi conveyor belt of potentially world champion boxers coming out of Saudi in the next 2 or 3 years, though, Daz. Bit quick.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I think Saudi, it's fair play of Saudi, these Saudi cards, giving these guys opportunities, really. I mean, I mean, even for where they are on the card as well, I presume they're earning some really good money being on the card. As you say, I don't really know much about either of these two. But yeah, I would, bit quick really, and a bit too early to be talking like that, I'd say.
Okay. Moving on to the next fight then, guys, when it allows me to do so. So Sky Nicholson versus Raven Chapman. I'm going to come to Mr. Medcalf on this one. quite interested in this fight, no doubt, like his most female fights. So give us your breakdown, and there's a lot of talk in the build-up. Raven Chapman, she's in very good shape. Is it her cup final? I don't know, but over to you.
No, listen. I think she's better than that to say that this is the only chance she'll get. She's a good fighter, but Sky Nicholson does what Sky Nicholson does. She does very basic things, but she does them very well. She's not gonna hook off the jab and stuff. She basically throws the jab. She'll throw a 1-2. She'll throw a lead right hand, and her feet. Her feet are very good. She's very good at not getting it and not engaging. I think she's actually come out at some point. A few people have told me this and actually said she hates getting it. She actually fears getting it. She doesn't like it. That, if you can control that, can make you razor sharp. And I think that's what she does. There is rumours and there are only rumours flying around about certain sparring sessions with them both. That Miss Nicholson was fairly well on top.
Guys, are you sick of these sparring stories coming out? Because it's not very good etiquette, is it? Because normally what happens in spars stays in spars.
Well, to be fair, mate, to be fair, it's not from Sky. Sky's not put this out. It's just interesting. It's just a couple of people who were around at the time. So it's not really from anyone's team. It's just things that have been put out. But listen, I'm of the thing that Raven's tactics have got to be pretty simple to win this fight. She's got to have a tight guard and she's got to cut her off, and then she's got to just unleash on her. If someone says that they're not comfortable, they don't want to get it. When they get it, they're not going to like it, are they? It's not rocket science. Raven Chapman can't be having a game plan where, right, you've got to set her up to do this, you've got to set her up, because she's not going to. Sky's going to do the same stuff all the time, but she's going to do it well. And she's going to be razor sharp doing it. So basically, she's got to try and wear her down. She's got to take her legs away. So she's got to attack the body straight off. I don't think Raven's a big puncher, if I'm honest. I'm led to believe she's physically strong. So, I can only see like Sky Nicholson doing what Sky Nicholson does and winning fairly comfortable on cards.
Right, so you're going for a points decision, right?
I am, mate, yeah.
I'll come to Darren Ashton next. That's the same question to you. Give us your breakdown and then your prediction.
Yeah, I think like when you look at the records of both of them, I'd say the one thing that we can all agree on is this fight's going to go the distance from what you can see of the stoppages between them both. Very good fight though, and it's nice. We spoke about it before. It's nice that the women are getting their chance on the Saudi card. Yeah, it's nice that they've been put on this show. Good fight as well. Both undefeated. Sky Nicholson's got the amateur background, and I actually think Raven Chapman is a massive outsider, really, from what I've seen of the odds on it. Like I think for me it's a bit more of a closer fight than that. But I'd probably edge it for slightly the better boxing skills with Sky Nicholson. I don't know if it'll be like him. I was going to say unanimous decision. I think it might be a bit tighter than that, but I think Raven Chapman will be game. She'll force the pace a bit more. Sky Nicholson, like Daz said, I think she'll do what she usually does. I mean, I've seen Eddie Hearn talking about, I think Sky could stop her late down the stretch. I personally can't see that happening because I think he thinks Raven Chapman might play into like Sky Nicholson's hands type of thing. But no, I'll go for Sky Nicholson's points win, but I think it'd be a bit closer than what people think.
Okay. I'm making a note of these just for Stuart, so when we come on next week, Darren can't say that he got it all right when he might not have. So, moving on to Aaron, same question to you, young man. Break it down for us how you think it goes and a prediction.
Yeah, it's tricky to kind of make any sort of controversial assumptions here, or to just try and take away from where we should be in the fight. I think Darren's got spot on there where I'm going to contradict myself in the space of 10 seconds here, because the bookmakers have it too wide, but then I also probably will have this one quite wide myself. It's a fantastic opportunity for Raven Chapman. We were worried for so long about how these female fighters were going to get onto the Saudi cards, if there was an interest in that, if Turkey Al Sheikh was bothered enough, let's say, to take these fights on. But it's brilliant. She's worked her way up with the WBC. Sky Nicholson, for everything that we've seen, the best featherweight on the planet. So it's a well-made match, this, to be fair. Sky Nicholson's just too technically astute. She does very, very little wrong. And I appreciate that the quality of that division on the grander scale is not that good, in all truth. She's up there, and then other than Sarah Mahfoud, there's very few, I think, that are really competing at that top level. Raven Chapman does a lot of good things, though. I've seen her fight a few times. She's very defensively sound. If she is able to get into aggressive pockets and make Sky Nicholson work to defend, she will have openings. There will be opportunities for her to get inside. If she can do that enough, though, in the space of the 2-minute rounds, rather, I don't think so, unfortunately. And you'd expect Sky Nicholson to take this wide enough where there's not going to be enough of a shock on the cards anyways to go the other way. So should be a good night to work for Sky Nicholson, and I'm very glad to finally see women's boxing making its way to Saudi Arabia.
So, in conclusion, you're going for points as well, then, Harrison, right?
Yeah, points, comfortable points as well for Nicholson.
Okay. Moving on to the next fight. This one is very intriguing. So, we've got Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron. I think this will be Ben Whittaker's biggest test. I don't think Cameron's coming to play. I think he's going to give him a bit of a heart check. I'll come to Harrison first. Intriguing one, Harrison. Again, talk us through how you think this is going to go, and then a prediction.
Yeah, good fight. Definitely a fight that Ben Whittaker needs now, heading into number 9 in his career. We've kind of talked about his position in boxing, and people have complained about how he's had things way too easy for a while now. Liam Cameron's the type of fighter that will give him that test. And I think it's great for someone like him to get an opportunity on the show. It can't be understated. Good ticket seller. Seems like a very good spoken lad. So again, you wish him all the best. If Ben Whittaker has cracked up to what he should be, which obviously proven amateur, proven professional so far, he hasn't done anything wrong. So you'd expect him to want to put a show on now, because he's got an audience as well. We know there's going to be some sort of exciting, exasperating ring walk. We'll see how the promotion side of things goes after this. So it's kind of very interesting, isn't it? But I'm expecting Ben Whittaker to look really, really good here on purpose as well. He'll be flaunty. He'll be doing his things. You know what Ben Whittaker's going to bring, don't you, when he comes to fight? And Liam Cameron, as good as he is, I just don't think he's going to be able to keep Whittaker off for long enough, personally. And yeah, I think Ben Whittaker probably stops him mid-rounds.
Are you going to give me a round on that one, or are you going to keep splinters?
We'll go 6. He's got 6 rounds to win, Cameron.
Okay. Mr. Medcalf, coming over to you. Same again. From a boxing purist, Liam Cameron's had to climb a steep hill to get back onto these sort of shows, hasn't he?
Yeah. Listen, I have to... I sort of think of this one with my heart because I know Liam very well. Liam were part of our old gym at one bit when he won Commonwealth title from Sam Sheeder and defended it. And what happened to him was it was just shocking, absolutely shocking. It was basically admitted that it was from a contaminated note that was handed over to him from tickets, and because he wouldn't admit he'd taken it intentionally, he got this silly ban, 4-year ban. And it's ruined best part of his career. Let's be honest. He's nowhere near a light heavyweight. He were at his best as a middleweight, but he's been forced into light heavyweight because obviously of the inactivity and the amount of weight that he put on while he was off. So he's got to be a light heavyweight. He's got no choice in it, really. He'd probably be weak as a kitten if he went down to middleweight. Probably might not even be able to make middleweight. However, listen, Liam's very ring savvy. The clowning and everything Liam's seen before, and he's pointed that out as well. when this fight was announced, I said, all this clowning, Liam's seen it before in Ingle Gym. It's all been seen before. Ben's a very good fighter when he knuckles down, when he decides he wants to apply himself. Do I think Liam can drag him into a bit of a fight? Listen, I want Liam to win so bad. I don't think I've ever really wanted anyone to win a fight as much as I want Liam to win this. I just think he's got to drag him. He's got to drag him. You know, he's got to frustrate Ben as well. As well as Ben's going to try and frustrate him, he's got to frustrate Ben. That nothing he's doing is bothering him. Nothing he's doing is working. You know, he's got to turn it into a bit of a dogfight for me.
Deepest waters Ben Whittaker have been in.
It could be, yeah. It could, mate. For me, he's Ben Whittaker's best opponent by far.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what he's got to do. He's got to drag him. And listen, Liam's a very good body puncher. Very, very good body puncher. Seen it. I've seen it up close. I've seen, you know, he's just very good at body punching. You know, is that something that he'll do to start? Will he try and get close and do that? I don't know. If I've got to make a prediction and I'm going to ignore my heart, I've got to sort of agree with Harrison and say that Ben maybe would probably wear Liam down. I won't be surprised if Towel comes in front corner, if he takes a bit of damage, you know, cuts wise, because he's going to get caught with clean shots. So if he takes, you know, a bad uppercut, gets a bad cut, something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it don't become a corner retirement around 8 or something. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope he wins and then he sees this and then he texts me and says, "I proved you wrong."
So a couple of comments on the side. Jack Gladman says Sky wins on points. That guy agrees with him as well. That guy goes on to say 4 years is an horrible time to sit out. Must be great mentally to stay on track.
But you see, that's the thing. He didn't stay on track. That's what makes it all the more remarkable.
Right? Understandably.
Yeah, mate. It was in an absolute mess. Not just because of that. His stepdaughter died as well in a car accident.
Yeah.
You know, Liam's come out and said he thought about ending his life on multiple occasions, and to go from being, I mean, I think he went up to about 20 stone nearly. You know, so to be like that and then to be where he is now, listen, it's a success story anyway.
Yeah, I hope he's getting paid a shed load of money for it as well.
Yeah, mate, I think he will be, and he deserves to.
He does.
But, you know, he's just doing, you know, what he does, and credit to him.
So good luck, Liam, on Saturday from everyone at Last Bell. Not that we're biased, but good luck, Liam. Moving on to the next fight. Jai Opetaia versus Jack Massey. Now, this is an intriguing one. Another fighter that's come from the abyss, working as a labourer on his brother's building site, all the way back to being on a massive card like this. So props to Jack Massey. I'm going to come to you first, Daz. People are saying Jai Opetaia is tight at the weight. That's what's being reported around fight week.
He don't look it. It looks all right to me. It looks all right to me. Very, 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 very hard fight this for Jack. Very, very hard. And do you know what? Jack's a tough guy. Tough man. But I sort of think that Jay will stop him between 9 and 12 late on. However, I just, you know, I don't know, mate. I just got this feeling that he's going to unleash one of them Ellis Zorro thunderbolts, and that he don't see. I mean, he can do that any time. You know, listen, you might stand up to one, but getting them constantly, it's not a good thing. And again, Jack Massey seems like a great lad. And he's obviously going to go there, he's obviously going to try and win as well. He's not going to make up numbers. I hope he takes him a few rounds. I really do, and I think it could be one of them where Jack's stock could go up for this. It's one of them, he's expected. I've seen a lot of people expect him to get blown out inside 3. So if he performs half all right, his stock's going to rise.
I know A plus B don't equal C in the boxing game, Daz, but if you can hang with Joe Parker, I mean, that result's getting better and better over the course of time, right?
Yeah, it is, but it's like Jay Opataya is different. He delivers his punches different. I'd say he's a lot faster than Joe Parker. And it's not all about that footing power. It's the snap, the speed and the snap of the shots that Jay will catch you with. I mean, if we're gonna do that, like you said, this just shows that A, B don't equal C. Is look at Fury and Usyk.
Yeah.
Usyk had Fury all at C. Yet Deontay Wilder, while he did hurt Fury, Fury recovered from what people are saying is one of the hardest punching heavyweights who's ever lived.
Yep.
So on that thing, people were saying, well, there's no way Usyk can hurt him. Anyone can hurt anyone at any given time if you catch them right. And listen, that goes for massive hitting Opataya as well. But I think it's a really, it's a really big ask. But I hope he does himself credit, and I hope his stock rises, because there's a lot of fights out there he's well capable of winning.
Yeah. Prediction?
You know what? I'm going to give him a bit of credit, and I wouldn't want to put money on this either, but I'll go Jay Opataya around 10.
Okay. We'll bring Darren Ashton in next while your Wi-Fi holds up, Daz.
Man, I'm having an absolute mare tonight. I've even just put it on the iPad and it weren't working either. It must be this new app.
No bother. So, same to you then, fella. Give us your sort of how you think the fight's going to go and a prediction.
Yeah, I actually like this fight. I think Jack Massey's actually deserving of it with the run he's been on. Like we say, he went the distance with Joseph Parker when he stepped up to heavyweight. Had some good wins against Isaac Chamberlain and that. I think it's fair play to him for the way his stocks rose with it getting on this card. Obviously, we're all expecting like Jay Opataya, with his speed and his skills to win the fight. But I actually think Jack Massey could take him the distance here. Is my connection, or is he gone again?
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yep.
I think Jack Massey could take Jay Opataya the distance here. I really do. I think Jay Opataya will win, but I do think it will go the distance because I think Jack Massey's a tough kid.
Points. Okay, cheers. Harrison, coming to you, same question.
Yeah, I don't know. Poor Jack, I guess. I don't know. It's just not fair. It's you have to be born in the same generation as certain fighters, and some super middleweights will think, why was I born at the same time as Canelo? Heavyweights will be thinking, why was I born at the same time as Fury and Usyk, and everyone has come beforehand. And if you're a cruiserweight who's just too small to be a heavyweight, you're thinking, why was I born at the same time as Jay Opataya? And I think it's fantastic that we've got someone like Jack Massey in a position where, after he lost to Joe Parker, he had no right being a heavyweight. I'm sure we can all agree on that. He had no right being a heavyweight. Came back down to cruiser, had a nice easy 6-rounder, blasted the block out in a round, and then I wouldn't go as far as say a major shock, but the way that he beat Isaac Chamberlain was really, really impressive. And that kind of made you think in the back of your mind, in another era, that would have been a fight that would have got you into a world title where you would have had a fair chance, but he's just being laid out here for Jay Opataya, I'm afraid. The difference in class at this level is absolutely astonishing. I think you're right. I think the Parker loss has obviously gained form over time because obviously you've looked at how well Parker's done. But the style difference between a heavyweight that punches like that against a technical operator like Jai Opetaia, who also has the punching power, is second to none. I think if Opetaia and Parker ever cross paths, Opetaia would probably have his number. So I think that you amalgamate everything that's going around Jai Opetaia, he should just be way too good here. And I honestly think the two of you are giving him just a bit too much credit, personally. I think this could be one of the quickest fights on the card, personally. I just think if Opetaia comes with his power, and if he's just too technically sound, I can see Massey just getting a bit overwhelmed in there, to be honest. I could just see this being a fight that is leaps and bounds above anything else that he's ever had to face, given the operation, the stage, and everything. This is set up for Opetaia to look ridiculously good. And I think he's going to stop in the first 2 rounds. I really do. It's difficult to see first 2 rounds because I think once Opetaia lands on him, I'm really worried that Massey will just panic more than anything else. And then when an operator like Opetaia gets on top of you, it's very difficult to deal with that style, that brilliance at that level. And I wish him all the best, same way you all do. I want to see him as many British world champions that there possibly can be, but this isn't the right route for us to go down at the minute. We're not as strong as cruiserweight as we look, unfortunately, in Opetaia. Very, very easy win here.
Okay. Moving on then. So this next fight, great addition to the card. Fabio Warder versus Fraser Clark. So Harrison, we're going to stick with you, fella. I'll just give my quick insight. I think Fraser Clark will win this fight. I think he would have developed. I think he's got more levels in than Warder. I know I've been saying that for the best part of 18 months. Move on. But I think Clark will beat Wardler. I think he's actually going to stop him around round 10. That's my prediction. Over to you, Harrison.
As good a British heavyweight title as there's probably ever been, or at least probably since Joshua White, or in fact, of course, the first fight, because we all watched it, and for my money, that's still fight of the year, I think, just off the top of my head. It was an absolutely brilliant affair. Judges couldn't split them, neither could I. Both men gave it a really, really good go. People had Wardley the slight favourite going into that one, but then Clark did things that I wanted to see him do before the fight. I wanted to see him use that amateur overhauling that he has on Fabio Wardley. He used his power very well at times, and obviously there was point deductions. Everything went on in that first fight. It was just brilliant. Second time round, though, it's going to be really interesting to see how they've trained for this. To be honest, is Wardley now focusing more on his power and his ability to get fighters out there, like we've seen at the early stage in his career, or is he going to try and combat Clark a bit more head on and try and outbox him, which I don't think is the right thing to do, because Clark's that pure amateur experience that you gain, especially when you're a heavyweight, to be able to box and move around the ring could be the difference between these two. And if Clark boxes to that standard again like he did in the first fight, he should have enough to edge this. There's every capability and component to say this is not going to go the distance as well, because they are both big punchers, really big punchers as well. And with that aftermath, and I suppose just taking that into consideration, Wardley for me is the slightly, and I mean slightly bigger puncher. Clark's got the better boxing abilities, but I just think Wardley will have trained correctly for this one and done things differently, where he's now got a lot more respect for Fraser Clark than he might not have had the first time round, and that's why I'm going to go for Fabio Wardley knocking him out. All four outcomes aren't really surprising to me here. Both can win this on points. I think both can knock each other out, but I think that Wardley is going to train differently, and he's going to get him out there in the late rounds. Because you're going to push me for a round. I'll go 9.
9 Wardley. Okay, Mr. Ashton, I'll come to you next. Give us your breakdown and prediction.
Well, obviously the first fight was brilliant to watch, so I'm excited for this second one. For me, in this fight, I've already watched a couple of interviews with Fraser Clark, and he's already talking sort of like, if I get my tactics right here, I won't have to get involved how he did before. So I think Fraser Clark's going to try, and I don't think he'll be able to do it because of the way Fabio Wardley fights. I think Fraser Clark's going to come and try and do a bit of a boxing job here rather than get involved in the tear-up. I don't think he wants to get involved in that kind of fight again, but I think it's going to be hard when you're up against Fabio Wardley. I think they'll both learn from the first fight, but I just think at some point, probably around round 10, I think Fabio Ward is going to get to Clark, and I think when you go on about punching power, I think Fabio Ward is a far bigger puncher than Fraser Clark. I don't think Fraser Clark hits that hard, to be honest with you. So I think Fabio Ward is the stronger puncher, and I think for his style, I just think he'll get to Clark and wear him down eventually, and I think he'll have enough to take him out around round 10.
Okay, thank you very much. Coach Medcalf, coming to you.
I don't think you can teach an old dog new tricks, personally. I don't think Fabio can change that much. I think he fights one way and he's going to fight that way all the time. He might try some new stuff early on, maybe, but Fraser Clark has been doing that style of boxing since he's been boxing. I mean, if Fraser had used that jab a little bit more, with a little bit more authority in that last fight, I think it would have been a bit of a clear win for him. I just think Fraser's going to try and stick to a plan that might not be very easy on the eye for us spectators, to be fair. I think Fraser might be jabbing, use that right hand, and then maybe tie him up after, not engage with him up close. It might be a bit of a boring fight, to be fair. And I can't believe I'm saying that after the last fight. But I think Fraser probably knows that that's the only way he's going to win. You know, he's got to use his skills. He's got to tie him up inside. Listen, if Fraser does that and leans on him, could tire Fabio out, and using that sort of way of fighting, he could walk Fabio onto something. And yeah, I agree with Daz. He's not the biggest puncher, Fraser, but any man who's that way, it's going to register no matter what. I just think, listen, I'll go to say it, and I hope I'm wrong on this one as well. I think it's going to be a bit of a dull fight, to be fair. I think it's going to be a bit of a box move and clinch from Fraser, if I'm honest. I think Fraser will win on points.
Okay, thank you very much. And now bringing us to the main event, the one that we're all waiting for, and the one that, if we're brutally honest, none of us know which way it's going to go. We might have a thought, we might have an idea, but none of us truly know. So I'll come to Coach Medcalf first. What a
Unlucky.
Yeah, a bit of a boring fight this.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think I've ever been as back and forth on a fight outcome of what I think than this. I honestly don't. I think I've just, one minute I'll think Bivol, then I'll see a clip of Beterbiev and I'll think Beterbiev, then I'll see a clip of Bivol and I'll think Bivol. So I have given myself a bit of a day yesterday in watching quite a bit of them both. And what a fight! What a fantastic fight! I mean, unbelievable. Where Beterbiev's concerned, I wouldn't say he's a one-trick pony. I think he's a lot better than that. He's very heavy-handed, but I think he's a Golovkin puncher. He's one of them he'll not knock your spark out with one hit, even though he probably has earlier on in his career. But the elite, the proper world level fighters he faces, he'll break them down. Yeah. He's one of them who I think will land a shot and it'll stay with you for a round or two.
And you don't care where it hits, does it?
No. He's very heavy-handed, and it's like a thudding power, and when he hits you, you stay hit. So if he works your body, you're in for a long night. Bivol, amazing, just an amazing fighter, very technically brilliant. Carries a little bit of pop himself, I think. I wouldn't say that he's not got a decent dig enough to gather respect. I think he's a bit probably underrated physically as well. He's probably quite physically strong as well. I think this fight can boil down to how much damage Bivol can either take or avoid early on. If he can keep out of sort of trouble early on, first six or seven, I think Bivol can pull this off. Maybe still have a couple of rocky moments going down stretch though. If Beterbiev can get up close to him early, it could be a long last 5 rounds for Bivol.
So Daz, you got £1 left in your pocket. I'm sorry to do this, but
No. I have made up my mind, mate. I've made up my mind. I going through obviously Beterbiev's fights. When you watch some of the opponents against him, the little bits of movement do offset him a little bit. Even though he has got good feet, he is a little bit seek and destroy sometimes, and he does get caught. Yeah. And I think that little bit of movement can offset him. It can, upset his rhythm. I think Bivol's gonna beat him on points. I think it's going to be a bit of a masterclass for 6 from Bivol. Maybe a couple of tight rounds in that as well, but I think he's generally going to be up on cards after 6 or 7 maybe, and then I think he might have to probably ride out a couple of, maybe even a knockdown late on, maybe, I don't know, but a couple of sticky moments down stretch, and I think Bivol's going to win him on points. I just think it's that extra bit of class, I think, is gonna tell for him.
Thank you very much. Harrison, coming to you.
Oh wow. There's not much I can add there. I think Daz has got, he's just taken the breakdown just exceptionally. We've said it for the last year and a half now, 2 years, that this introduction from the Riyadh season has brought fights that we just never thought we'd see. And this is definitely one of them. A top-ranking Matchroom fighter coming together on this grand scale. It's extraordinary. One for the purists was the first comment Eddie Hearn made for the press conference for this a couple of weeks back in London. And I think he's right, because it might not reach the audience, the casual global audiences like a Fury Usyk or an Usyk Fury 2 might do, or even Joshua a few weeks ago. But in terms of the raw class and ability of the sport and what two men can offer, I don't think there's a fight I'd rather see in boxing right now rather than these two on Saturday nights. And I think that it just carries so much in terms of quality and history, and it's the most extraordinary of fights. On one hand, you've got this brilliantly technically gifted boxer in Dmitry Bivol, who's the only man to stop Canelo for a decade. He's never really faced any problems at light heavyweight, to be honest. He's beaten the likes of Zorro. He forced him to move up to cruiserweight. Everything he's done, and the way he's got better and better over time, his technical class is brilliant. Arguing to be the best defensive boxer in the sport right now. Like Daz said there, he's got a bit of pop on his shots. In terms of an all-rounded fighter, he's just got to be up there for me as one of the most extraordinary fighters on the planet. Facing that, though, probably the only man who can beat Bivol is Beterbiev, because Beterbiev carries this power that we probably haven't seen at light heavyweight since a Michael Spinks, or perhaps even a Roy Jones Jr. It's been that long since we've seen someone with that raw ability. Even when we had the likes of Sergey Kovalev or Lady Alvarez during their time as a light heavyweight champion, they never carried that power for me. He's destructive. He's just brilliant. There's so much to like about him. And you've got this punching machine who has got class in himself, Beterbiev. He can box really well against that all-rounded style of Bivol, and they clash brilliantly here. And it's the hardest I've found it to pick a winner of a world title fight in my lifetime, anyways, to be honest. I thought Fury and Usyk was probably more clear-cut than this, and I went Fury, which kind of just proves my point. Usyk won, and I didn't see that coming. So we could sit here for the next 5 hours and try and decide who's going to win. Not a clue. Absolutely no idea. But it guarantees itself to be an extraordinary fight because whatever happens, it will develop in stages. If Beterbiev starts fast, Bivol has to adapt to that. If Bivol gets on top of him early and starts stealing away the rounds, does Beterbiev start to get a bit wild and loose to think, I need to knock him out now because I'm 8-9 rounds down? There's going to be so many different superlatives throughout the fight that are really worth watching. And this for me is as good as it gets.
So if you had your last pound in your pocket, then Harrison, let's go down this scenario because I kind of want to get a choice out of you. Who would you look for?
Can I keep my pound?
No.
I'll lend you a pound.
Oh, I've got £2 now. I'll have one on each. The betting suggests Bivol because Bivol's been the one who's come for the money. But Beterbiev has now odds against, which that won't last 5 minutes once the first bell goes. I don't know. I think Bivol, because I've got a gun to my head and a pound in my pocket. Bivol takes a 7-5 split decision with some razor sharp cards. It could be a draw. It could easily be a 1-14, twice or 3 times. But you can't predict a draw, can you? So I'm going to go Bivol like that. I'm fascinated to know what you think because this is just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. So I predicted Bivol to beat Canelo, if you remember, all that time ago, which I haven't dined out on much of it, obviously. I only mentioned it about every other week. But I've always thought Bivol, don't get me wrong, Beterbiev is a better boxer than people give him credit for. People just think he's a puncher. He's far from it, right? But I just think Bivol finds a way. And people have been throwing at me, what about the Spider Richards performance and things like that? Bivol tailors his performance level to the opponent he's in with, which is very intriguing as well. So, listen, a bit like what Mr. Medcalf says, I think there's going to be life and death in this fight. I think he's going to have to dig deeper than he ever has. But one thing I would say, as much as Beterbiev is the only person who can beat Bivol, I believe Bivol is the only person who can beat Beterbiev as well. So, really intriguing fight. I think Bivol is going to win on points. And then it'll be interesting because they're making noises that Beterbiev may move up, aren't there? Again, a lot of rumours flying around about being tight of the weight. That seems to be a common theme in this camp, don't it? Everyone's struggling at the weight to listen to punching. I just think Bivol finds a way, guys. I think he finds a way. A little bit more versatile than Beterbiev. I just think he'll find a way to come out on top.
Yeah.
I think the movement, just the movement, is going to offset Beterbiev quite a bit.
That Soviet style that he's got, does.
Yeah, I just, a couple of times he literally sat on the ropes with Canelo and let him unload on him a little bit. Tight defense, don't get me wrong, but I'd be very, very, very surprised if he does this with Beterbiev. Very surprised.
Canelo couldn't work the puzzle out though, Daz, could he? He ran out of ideas.
No, listen, what Canelo usually does, punching everywhere, it didn't work on Bivol. It broke, and it still does. It continues to break so many fighters, but it didn't do anything to Bivol. I just think he's got that little bit extra in his toolbox, skill-wise maybe. And I tell you, a big sway for me as well was, even though Beterbiev is very heavy-handed, it's the type of puncher he is. He'll wear you down. He's a Golovkin. Look at Golovkin v. Kell Brook. Golovkin caught Kell with some clean shots, and people were thinking he were going to knock him spark out. Golovkin, an heavy puncher, not a Julian Jackson type puncher. And like heavyweights, Beterbiev's not like a Bob Foster who would hit you and you'd be asleep for a week. So I think Beterbiev's got to get to him early. He's got to get to him to wear him down, to try and take his legs away. And this is what makes it a brilliant fight, because he's got to do that. We know what Bivol's got to do. It's just an amazing fight. It's just an absolute brilliant fight.
So I just put the comments from the side. So that guy thinks Fraser Clark's going to win on points. Yeah, and he also thinks Bivol's going to win on points. I'll forget the last bit. We don't endorse gambling on this channel.
There is other betting sites that we can use available.
Or coffee shop.
If it is a scenario, that's one before we close the show out. If Bivol beats Beterbiev, do you think he might come down to 168 and fight Canelo for them super middle belts?
No.
Absolutely no chance.
I was thinking about this just before I came on show. I don't think Bivol moves up or down. Bivol spends his career at light heavy and possibly goes down in conversation as who's the greatest light heavyweight ever. I don't think he moves up because I think he's too small to move up.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll kill himself to move down either. I think he's more likely that he'd go down than up.
Yeah.
But I can't see him doing either. I can just see him dominating. Obviously, listen, I picked him to win. So going on that, if he does what I think he's going to do, he wins, he dominates light heavy, retires, and he's in conversation with Spinks, Foster, Mora, who's the best light heavyweight that's ever lived.
And what about you, Harrison? Do you reckon he'll get down?
No, I don't, but I do agree with Daz. I think he's more likely to go down than he is up, because if he went up to cruiserweight, then he'd really struggle, I think. You think if you go down to super middle, it's half a stone, but if you go up to the cruiserweight limit, it's well over it's best part of 2 stones. So I can see the Canelo fight happening again, to be fair, because if Canelo doesn't go down this ridiculous Crawford route, he's essentially beaten everyone that's left at super middle, and he refuses to fight Benavidez. So, in terms of options, the main thing to do is to go up to light heavyweight and probably fight Bivol or Beterbiev. I think they're both really good fights, but specifically on Bivol, I think it's more likely that he stays at 75 and fights Canelo, either for the undisputed or to get back into the ring with Beterbiev at some stage. I just had one more comment as well I wanted to get in there about Beterbiev, trying to make comparisons. I know this is a bit ridiculous because it's going back 12 years, but I remember when Alexander Usyk fought Beterbiev twice in the amateurs, fought him at the Olympics, and then he fought him the year before in the I think it was the National Championships of the Worlds or something like that. Obviously, we know Usyk's got that sort of technical astuteness, but he also then has that power to break people down. If we're trying to make comparisons with Usyk and Bivol, that's kind of the main key feature I'd go towards. Usyk's movement when he was getting around Beterbiev was really, really important. Beterbiev couldn't really get close to him. Even in the amateurs, he was a high voltage, aggressive type fighter who wanted to get in the face of his fighters, as so many amateurs do. But Usyk just boxed too technically smart around him. He was always just moving, and I have Bivol probably is a slightly more technical boxer than Usyk. Maybe that's controversial, I don't know. But in terms of movement and ability,
I think he's technically a bit more sound, if I'm honest. I agree.
So if you look at the way Usyk was able to take Beterbiev around the ring, if Bivol can match that and make things awkward and confusing for Beterbiev, that might help swing things in his way. It's such a massive if, though, because like I said, if Beterbiev does get inside and close, how is Bivol going to react to that as well? That's what makes this fight so amazing. I just think that's something to point out from.
The good thing as well, it tickled me a little bit, to be fair. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm almost certain that when Canelo came up to light heavy, he chose Bivol thinking he was the easier fight than Beterbiev.
Yeah.
He'd obviously seen some of the previous and thought, I don't think he fancied getting in there with Beterbiev one bit. And obviously chose Bivol as, I can beat Bivol. And then obviously Bivol did what he did and made the world take notice.
Yeah. Very, very, very good fight. The will stops for this fight. Short one, maybe not the will, but the boxing. The hardcore fight fans like that call themselves. It's amazing.
Mate, I can't think of any. I'd like to see Gervonta v. Shakur. I think, but even then, I don't think it excites me as much as this.
This is better.
Yeah, it doesn't excite me as much as this. I can't think of any other fight. What
The only fight I want to see more than this is Fury and Usyk too, and that's already happening anyway. So it kind of just shows you the scale and appreciation we need to have for the way boxing is at the minute. Because like people were moaning about the undercard there the other day for the Fury Usyk 2 fight, and it just annoyed me.
Yeah,
I thought we're in such a good space. If you're going to get annoyed that Dave Allen's finally getting a shot, and we're getting all these massive fights.
We'll cover that in more detail on next week's show. Because you've seen my comments on X, Harrison. I'm very much in favour of what you're saying. A certain of mine putting his roasting tickets on again. So I think it's only right that we get to the show so he can give us his views.
Listen, I'm not saying it's like I said, I'm not overly excited, but I'm not overly disappointed either.
It's been worse, hasn't it? There's been far worse.
Mate, it's been far worse. Far worse.
I think we've been. It's the era we're in, Daz, isn't it? We're being spoiled.
Yeah, but do you know what though? Do you know what? Right, look at us. Look at that Dubois AJ card. We were all looking at that, thinking, "Wow, every fight's going to be a barnstormer."
Yeah.
And they weren't.
No.
Yeah.
You know, some of them were like, well, I mean, some of them were. Listen, even Josh Padley did a really good performance, but he looked like he outclassed Chamberlain a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Kelly and Davis were a snowfest. Kachi and Warrington were like a sparring session.
Mismatch.
You've got to admit, though, Daz, he's done well to get on this card, anti-Dave Allen. Whoever's managing him,
mate, listen, no matter what the thoughts are, he's always around, isn't he? But, you know, I just don't like it when I think that a fight is being used as a punch bag off a promoter. However, it's Dave's career. Dave does what he wants, so good luck to him. But you just don't want there to be one punch too many, do you?
No.
You know, he's got a kid. You know, a missus. He's doing well. We managing fighters. He's training some fighters. You know, let's be honest. He's not doing great, is he? You know, he's been
that itch up though, does it? When you got that itch, it's difficult, isn't it? When someone puts
mate, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, you don't play.
That itch can be dangerous, mate. It's, you know, but like I said, listen, he's a grown man, and you know, I wish him. Listen, I just want him to be safe. I do any boxer. I just want him to get out ring, and go home to the family.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. You know, put your check in bank and then enjoy it. Yeah. But yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, well, we're going to do a review show on Sunday, 6 p.m. We're going to look at how many results Darren's got right now. I've got written evidence. So that'll be Sunday at 6 p.m. I'd imagine the normal crowd will be back for that one, including Anders. So we might touch on the undercard and getting wound up because it don't take much. Daz, thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
All right, mate.
Harrison, thank you for your time. Darren Ashton, I know you dropped in and out with your Wi-Fi this week. Thank you for your time. Everybody in the sidebar, thank you for your comments. Again, Sunday, 6 p.m. for the review show of possibly what could be the greatest fight in recent times. This has been Last Boxing, sponsored by LW Lift Internet